What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second album by Boys in the Hood. Basically, this project is called Back Up in the Chevy, and it came out in the fall of 2007. Now, the thing about this particular album is the fact that back in the day, Wikipedia and other places used to say that this album came out October 2nd or so of 2007, but nowadays it's been kind of bumped up to about August of 2007. It's kind of an odd thing that that kind of happened, but I do remember times from back in those days, and I do remember it coming out in the fall of 2007. So I don't know why they bumped it up and that tough stuff, but it did come out in October 2007. The thing about this particular album is just the fact that I kind of see it as an improvement over the thing about this particular album is I kind of see it as an improvement over their 2005 album, which had Jeezy on there. I would definitely kind of feel like there are some moments, like I do definitely feel like Jeezy might have been more of a breakout star than Gorilla Zoe, but Gorilla Zoe is definitely nothing to sneeze at. He's a pretty dope cat on here, and he definitely works pretty well. I am eventually going to get to some of his music. I definitely was a fan of his albums in the past, but I do think the concept of it on here, he's a good fit for this particular album. This kind of just feels like more like there's the thing about the four rappers on here, which would be Big Gee, Big Duke, Jody Breeze, and Gorilla Zoe. For the most part, that the member that's on here the least is the rapper that's on here the least out of the four rappers out of Boys in the Hood is Big Duke, which is kind of a disappointment because he had some talent, but it's just kind of the concept that really you do like Gorilla Zoe has a lot of shine on here, and in some cases when you listen to this album in a different instance, it kind of feels like this is just another Gorilla Zoe album, but he doesn't overly steal the show like Jeezy kind of did on the 2005 album. That's definitely kind of the concept about it. Jody Breeze and Big Gee are some other cats on here, but those are the ones that you're going to see the most apart from like Gorilla Zoe and such. So I would have to say it's just too bad that Big Duke kind of didn't get as much shine. But I kind of look after just being able to say like this is a pretty hit album. Like I was saying, I do feel like this is an improvement over their 2005 album, which I did like Boys in the Hood from 2005, but there were some moments on there that just didn't quite have. Like it was somewhat patchy just because the production work was just not always on point. I mean, it did have some good bops on there, but I kind of feel like songs that didn't have Jeezy on there kind of took a toll more so than like they probably needed to. It's just some cuts that I remember. Just I reviewed that album back in 2020, but I would have to say probably nowadays that the songs like Gangstas and Dem Boys and Felonies, those are some of the best songs on there. But you know when it doesn't have Jeezy as much, it just kind of felt a little bit more subpar. But there are some good ones. I definitely feel like you should look into Boys in the Hood from 2005 because it has it's some good Southern fried hip hop that does have a lot of good gems on there. But I have to say about this album, I do think this album is better, but it also does the improvement of not just having Gorilla Zoe. I do think this album is better, but I also think it has the improvement of not just having Gorilla Zoe steal the show on every single one of these songs. That's pretty dope to kind of have that happen. But as a result, this album really didn't chart that heavily, and it was kind of subpar. That's why I think it was kind of murky as to why this album is kind of the context of why it was released, because it just kind of surprisingly kind of happened. Like Gorilla Zoe dropped his 2007 album in September of that year, and then this came out like just a week or so after that. So I kind of remember that concept as far as it kind of went. But I just would have to say the thing about this particular album is the single from this album, Everybody Know Me, came out in the spring of 2007, and then the other two singles just kind of sporadically kind of happened, which Wikipedia doesn't have a ton of information about these. But the other two singles would be Table Dance and Paper, but both of them are just kind of here and there, kind of hodgepodge. They kind of happen, but they just were not promoted really. It was just kind of an awkward album just because the thing about it was is the promotion for this album just kind of fell apart really quickly. It was just kind of an awkward album. I'm actually surprised that this album even came out at all. I'm actually surprised that this album even came out at all. It's a good thing that it did, but I just kind of look at the concept as just kind of the situation that it was just kind of an odd pairing just as to how that kind of went. But I look after it, the promotion for this album, there were three singles. So basically, the first single off this album was Everybody Know Me, and this came out in the spring of 2007. And this was basically like a leery, high octane, ferocious type song, had ferocious energy about it. It's just a good manic trap boiler, I would have to say, and it's kind of a bit offhanded for them. So this is just kind of one, this really felt like some powder cake kind of energy. It was just real ravenous and just thunderous as far as that kind of went. Just really kind of manic, just kind of really excitable. I was just surprised at how that kind of went. Like I did like another hit song that has Gorilla Zoe that's kind of similar to this is Hood Nigga, and that one's a little bit better. But I do feel like the energy of this is just kind of it's offhanded, but it kind of somehow works. It's just a concept. Like I didn't listen to this song too much in the past, but I do like the concept of hearing it. It's just a good kind of one. This really feels like a trap bubbler. Like if you like songs like Trap Back Jumpin' by like DJ Paul, and there's a Trap Back Jumpin' by Ti and that type stuff. So there's some ones like that, but this is just kind of one that this is not quite a smooth type song, not quite just a club crunchy type track or a drug track, something like that. This is really Like when they talk about being back up in the Chevy in this album, there's a lot of ride out songs on here. Like there's at least a handful I can name. Like Everybody Know Me's a riding song. Everybody Know Me's a riding song. We Riding's obviously a riding song. We Ready's kind of like a nice riding song, and Paper's like a nice riding song. So there's like at least three or four, maybe even a few more songs like that on this album that are just for some real riding out type songs. This is definitely a good example of that. It's just kind of differential type of energy that was just unexpected for Boys in the Hood, especially when you listen to their normal hit singles off their first album, like Dem Boys and Felonies. Those were just kind of two ones that just had a different tempo. So this is just kind of a surprising one. This introduced Gorilla Zoe pretty well, and it's just a good bop to kind of have for that. I feel like Big Gee and Gorilla Zoe really steal the show on the. I feel like Big Gee and Gorilla Zoe really steal the show on this particular song. There's a bunch of songs that kind of have those same similar vibes, where it kind of feels more of like Big Gee and Gorilla Zoe's type album, more so than Jody Breeze and Big Dukes. But it's just kind of the concept. These are just some good ones. That's the good stuff. One of my favorite songs on this album is Table Dance. This is definitely a hit song. This is kind of the second single, but this is where things kind of got into murky territory, where things just were not quite as promoted, and they were just kind of lousy, just with like, I mean, I know if you visit rap websites from like 2007, late 2007 or so, it'd probably talk about the promotion, but now that that's starting to become 16, 17 years ago, it's just less kind of visible as far as that kind of goes. But I just look after it like Table Dance is kind of a breezy, mellow days strip club hit. I would have to say it's got a great hook, and it's just a comfy kickback. Got a great hook, and it's some comfy kickback evening vibes, I would have to say. So this is an excellent kind of T-Pain hook on here. This is back when T-Pain was in his prime and was just nailing things and was doing everything right. This is just an excellent example of that. So if you enjoyed T-Pain, this is an easy one to recommend. Prime years T-Pain, as far as that kind of goes, just an excellent kind of dazed strip club type song. Just a breezy kind of one for the ladies, as far as that kind of goes. Just an easy kind of bop. Just really like the breezy kind of mellow vibes. Just a great cooler weather kind of tune. Just great strip club visiting. Just club bop, as far as that kind of goes. Just in a more relaxed kind of sense. Just easy kind of bop. Then Paper was the third single, and this has Rick Ross on there, and that's ironic because this song is very similar to the album that Rick Ross put out in early 2008 called Trilla. So to talk about this song, this is a dope ride out kind of get crunk to, and I would have to say it feels like a Trill leftover, Rick Ross's Trill leftover, and this is just a good vanilla kind of club energy, I would have to say, and it's a smoke a few tracks. I definitely like the concept about this one. This is produced by Drumma Boy, and Drumma Boy produced a good few tracks on Trill and that type of stuff. This really reminds me of something, kind of reminds me of Money Make Me Come off of Rick Ross's Trill. It's just a nice one for that sort of concept. It's kind of an easy, kind of dope one. It's just interesting hearing the Boys in the Hood on this type of song. Rick Ross really destroys this song, and it's just an excellent kind of one to kind of have. There's some Southern fried type stuff that just works pretty damn well. So this is another highlight. This is an extreme kind of hit. This is kind of one where it just barely, like, I feel like the thing about this particular album is just the fact that the promotion for it is just so awkward and kind of off to the wayside. It's just kind of the concept that if there were singles for it, it's just like you had to really be paying attention to rap websites to kind of know about it. Like Table Dance and Paper were both two singles that just kind of came out. Like I do at least remember Table Dance being a single, but it's just kind of like things were kind of more offhanded to the point where it just kind of felt like, you know, just to have like 6 months after the album came out to put out another single like that just kind of felt odd to kind of have that as a pairing. But it does kind of feel like it was a single, and it's definitely a good bopish one to kind of have. This really feels like it was a leftover from Rick Ross's Trill, which I definitely like. So it's just a good concept to kind of get all these folks riding out like that. So it's just a great ride out song and an easy kind of club and smoke one or smoke a few track, I would have to say. To talk about the rest of the songs on this album, there's 13 songs on this album, and out of those 13, I wound up recommending to you 10. So that's pretty damn excellent. I would have to say this is vast improvement over their 2005 album. A vast improvement over their 2005 album, I would have to say. So talk about the three songs. The three songs I don't recommend would be Nothing Is Promised, Block Boys, and Back Up in the Chevy, the title track. So talk about those. Like Nothing Is Promised was kind of like an original type song. Like Nothing Is Promised was kind of a song that just had a different kind of topic, just a little bit more paranoid and just kind of more real type song, I would have to say, but I just didn't vibe with that one as much or could see as many times where I would listen to it. Block Boys was just kind of a clumsy posse track, just had too many folks on there. It was just the execution and beat production of that one was just not very good. And then Back Up in the Chevy, the title track, just probably had one of the more clumsy and cumbersome beats on the album. So those are like the only real three duds on here. But the rest of this album's pretty excellent. So this album's definitely going to get over a 9 out of 10, I would have to say. But to talk about some of these, basically one of the best songs on this album is Bite Down. This is just a great get crunk track. I would have to say it has an infectious beat, and it's just a slurred kind of hypnotic feeling about it. And it's just a very lively bop, I would have to say. This one just has some real manic kind of feels about it. Just a great kind of Southern fried type tune that just has a lot of hypnotic kind of slurred energy that just works extremely well. It's just a real nice bopish one. Just a good one to kind of have. Easy kind of thrilled energy, kind of nightclub bounce. I would have to say it's just an easy kind of one to get turned up, stand on couches, that type of stuff. Just have a craze kind of time. Just an easy kind of highlight for that. Definitely one of the more manic songs like this one and everybody like the two first songs that you hear on here, Bite Down and Everybody Know Me, have the most manic energy. They just kick things off with a bang. Definitely some good ones to kind of get you thrilled right off the bat. So it's just interesting that they kind of did that. But these are definitely some highlighted ones. Choppas is an excellent one on here. This has Ice Cube on here, and this is kind of Choppas is an excellent one on here. This has Ice Cube on here, and this is kind of a syrupy Southern crunk club hit. I would have to say it's a great fit for Ice Cube, definitely, and it's just a nice leery kind of catchy. This has some nice leery kind of catchy vibes about it. It's just an overall fire track. This is another one that's one of the best on the album. I would have to say it's just a great song to smoke to, just really get in a daze and feel that kind of dazed feeling when you smoke and that type of stuff. Just some great feels for that. This Ice Cube really obliterates this song. Just a good concept of that. He really has a nice verse on here. Just would have to say some good stuff. And yeah, this is just an easy kind of mellow club hit. This one's not quite as crazy, but it just has some good kind of this overall brooding kind of energy that just works real well. This is just a good highlight. We Ready is a pretty excellent one. This has Young Jock on here, and he helps out with this song. This is a nice ride out and stunt song, I would have to say. It's got a leery, hypnotic kind of feel about it. It's just an easy, regular nightclub hit, I would have to say, and it's a basic bop. So this is just kind of a good one for that. Just a real kind of, there are some leery ones on here. Like, I feel like songs like Everybody Know Me, We Ready, and then there's like another one that's kind of on here that kind of has that sort of leeriness about it. I can't, like, I want to say it's like Say What's on Your Mind, some of those type ones. There's just some good ones that kind of have like some similar feelings. Like if you like Jeezy's The Recession, that kind of leery, kind of hypnotic kind of feel, that's just perfect for September, October. There's definitely some ones on here that kind of have those feels about it. Just some of those kind of UFO like leeriness that kind of goes along with it, I'd have to say. But We Ready is a definite nice one for that. Say What's on Your Mind is kind of a dark, volatile crunk jive. I would have to say it's a get hype kind of fight energy song. I would have to say, and it has like a leery, ghoulish feel about it. So this is definitely a pretty nice one for that sort of concept. This is definitely one of the more knuckle up kind of get crunk type songs. Just for some fight energy, definitely has that kind of concept about it. Very similar to like Young Jock's Is Going Down, just something like that and that sort of pitch. Fight Song by Marilyn Manson, even though that's a rock song, I would have to say just the same sort of concept as far as that kind of goes, but it's just a crunk variation of that where it's kind of leery, kind of has like that hypnotic kind of October feel about it, but I also like the concept of it kind of being like a crunk kind of, this is another new angle for Boys in the Hood, apart from like Everybody Know Me and some of those type ones. This is this kind of a more kind of riveting, kind of more carnivorous type energy. More so, they're just more lively on this particular album. It's just interesting that they just have a lot more flairish kind of energy this time around. That's just different from the more kind of syrupy kind of smoke a few tracks that they were on their 2005 album. So it's just kind of interesting to kind of see that. I mean, apart from Felonies and maybe there's like a song with Rick Ross I remember that was on that 2005 album. But apart from those couple ones, that was really a pretty drowsy album. But I just would have to say there's just some liveliness. Be Thuggin' is a pretty nice one. This is a midnight after hours creeping wind down track. I would have to say it's a good song to be hung over to, just getting home in the after hours, that type of stuff. And I would say it's just good for some night traverse. So this is kind of one if you're just picking up snacks at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that, hitting up the gas station, getting some wine, getting some beers, getting some liquor, some stuff like that, just getting some goodies, those sorts of things. This midnight after hours. I mean, it is kind of a midnight creep-in type song, I would have to say. It's definitely for after hours, just being more thuggish and rugged as far as that kind of goes. But I definitely see this as just like a wind-down track for just being hungover and getting home and crashing and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. It's a nice one. Just has that real kind of syrupy, this kind of slinky kind of this drowsy kind of energy about this, has a real kind of this tinkering kind of beat that just works pretty well, but it's just kind of an easy kind of after hours kind of song. And then No Haters Allowed is a pretty nice one. This is a decent jive mid-tempo hangout bop. I would have to say it's a good smoke a few track, definitely, and it's a good smoke a few track, I would have to say, and it's just some good afternoon fare. So I look at the concept of this particular one. This is just a nice one because this is probably one of the few hangout songs on here. This is kind of one where this is a little bit not quite as rugged, just a little bit more calmed down. I mean, it's definitely a druggy kind of song. I would have to say, definitely smoke a few, get crunk. It's definitely a smoke a few, get crunk, get drunk, that type of stuff. Call some women up, that sort of thing. But I just look at the concept. This one just doesn't have quite as much ride out kind of energy and go out and have some fun, go out to a nightclub. This is just kind of one where I would say at like a house party, just a mid tempo kind of hangout bop for or the PlayStation is out and those type things as far as that kind of goes. Some of those type moments, sports games are on some of those type moments, just pizza ordered, smoke sessions, that type of stuff. Definitely like the concept of it. And We Ride's another stepping out song. This is a riveting kind of ride out gem. I would have to say it has paramount energy about it. And it's just a great party cut for when things get crazy. I would have to say, and it's just a very litty song. So this one probably has some of the most manic energy. This is definitely one of the ones to play at like an apex of the night where things are like at the most craziness, whether it's at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning, just 10 o'clock at night, just on the upswing of the energy kind of being more crazy and getting more rowdy before things kind of start to simmer down and people go home and that type of stuff. I mean, it's a ride out song. It's definitely one to kind of cruise out to and have some times and that type of stuff. But I definitely see this as a pretty crazy kind of house party cut. I definitely see this as a pretty crazy house party cut to kind of have some wicked times too, as far as that kind of goes. That's a nice one. So yeah, that basically takes care of the album. So to talk about the score, I'm going to give this album. I'm going to give this album like a 9.25 out of 10. Just a clear improvement over Boys in the Hood from 2005. Just did so many things right. Just had so many hits on here. The production was great and excellent. They had some new angles, some manic energy, just some great get crunk songs, some lady songs on here. Just they carried their energy well, and it just had the right marketability and just overall vibes. That just was very catchy and affable. This would have to say. Just kind of the concept about it as far as that kind of went. And I just would have to say like. The social score, I'm going to give the social score basically like a 10 out of 10. I feel like the social score is just that damn good as far as that kind of went. This really did a lot of things right. I mean, the promotion of this project was kind of murky. You had to kind of know about it to kind of know what was happening with them. They just did not overly promote this project. It just kind of happened off to the wayside. It was just kind of more off of that. But there's just plenty of ride out songs. Like, I do like these kind of cruise out and ride out kind of songs for I do like these ride out songs for summer breezes and winter breezes and that type of stuff. This definitely kind of works. Songs like We Ready and Paper and We Ridin' and Everybody Know Me and some of those type ones definitely work. There's some club bops on here like Choppas, some manic energy like Bite Down, some good cuts on here like some after hours cuts like We Thuggin' and some hangout cuts like No Haters Allowed, just stuff like that that kind of overall went that way. And even like this like some lyric kind of manic kind of energy. There's another energetic one besides Bite Down, like Say What's on Your Mind. So just for some good bops as far as that kind of went. This great social energy. This is just a very overlooked album. I definitely feel like the concept about this is just very overlooked. This is kind of one, this is the clear improvement over Boys in the Hood 2005. I mean, I would say it doesn't have Jeezy on there, but Gorilla Zoe is an excellent replacement to Jeezy. It's just kind of the concept. I wouldn't be a part of the crowd that says, oh, well, I wouldn't be a part of the crowd that says, oh, well, Jeezy's not on this one, so I don't give a damn. I just would look after it, just being able to say it's good. And Gorilla Zoe definitely has some potent energy on here, and he fits this album real well. So it's just a good concept for that. I'm going to have to get to some of his music. This is kind of the thing about it. So this is just an excellent album. I mean, this the three minor mishaps. That's really a minor slight just to say this is a pretty damn near classic album. I would have to say it's just pretty much all but on the cusp of being a classic. It's all but on the cusp of being a classic, especially for like a Dirty South album. I just have to say, this does so many things right, and this is pretty much just one of those ones. Just like in some cases, there may not be folks in certain senses that feel like Young Jock's New Jock City is a classic, but nowadays I definitely would say that it is. And this is basically another one that's like that. There's some Dirty South albums that are kind of underappreciated, overlooked, and just seldom talked about. And these are just, we need to break that mold as far as that kind of goes, because this has some highlights on here, has some good guests. Ice Cube, T-Pain kill their parts. Young Jock kills his part. Rick Ross kills his part. So there just are some good examples of this. This is just great Southern fried hip hop, and basically I would just go ahead and say damn near a classic. So that's just kind of the thing about it. But in terms of the future, like Boys in the Hood hasn't put anything out for 16 years, so this is their most recent project. But they do have some mixtapes that I'm going to get to. But I would definitely recommend to get both these albums and then just get ready for me to review these mixtapes, because there probably are some further hits on there. But this is definitely pretty much like a damn near classic.